Good evening to everyone, and as always, especially to the voters in C7, Hamilton South. The goal for this evening is to discuss the the party platform, and as we always do, to provide information to everyone to assist them in getting number one to the polls on Thursday, October 1st. And ultimately, as everyone knows, is to encourage persons to come out and vote, to make history with us, so that we allow for the first time in history a PLP voice to represent everyone in Hamilton South in the House of Assembly. Last time we know that we came close. However, close is not good enough. We need to get over the line. We were 21 votes different last time. And as I've explained many times, 12 votes would have made the difference. So mathematically, if you take the 21 and divide it by a half, it becomes 11 and a half. So let's round up to 12, which means that if 12 persons had voted differently, there would have been a different result. And since that time, 2017, we've been working with the branch diligently to continue to serve the community, notwithstanding the last time result. And that was an interesting comment, by the way, because just this afternoon while I was canvassing, one of the constituents was actually surprised that we carried on with our activities, notwithstanding the fact that I was not the representative for Hamilton South. One of the key things we did that they talked about was the fact that we held our Saturday morning clinics, which was the first Saturday of every month, held at the Harrington Sound parking lot from 10 to 12. And the purpose of that was people were able to see us there, stop by, make comments, give any concerns, and we were able to work with that to resolve whatever the issue or challenge was. And in doing so, of course, we were able to serve the community. For this evening, the reference point will be the PLP platform. You can find it online at www.plp.bm. And the branding, if you will, is Rebuilding Bermuda with Bermudians at heart. So it's Rebuilding Bermuda. We need to rebuild after COVID-19. Everyone recognizes that the entire world economy was slowed down significantly as a result of COVID-19 because there was various economic shutdowns. In Bermuda, we actually closed our borders to allow us to get a handle on it. And as a result, of course, there was a reduction in activity because we had no tourists coming to the island. There was a reduction in business activity. And for many persons, they had to work from home, which slowed down many things and had a major impact on the restaurants and those types of businesses that depend upon hospitality and foot traffic. Before I start, I also want to let everyone know, I was reminded by my wonderful tech team, which is Ms. Cynthia Jones and Ms. Angela Young, that you may see two laptops in front of me. And the reason is we're trying to reach as many people as possible. And in this instance, we are live on both YouTube and Facebook, in addition to Instagram and Zoom. So we're trying to reach you on all platforms. Reminder also that the polling booth, the polling station will be open on Thursday, October 1st from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And at the Harrington Sound Primary School, I'll repeat that many times because persons keep asking, they want it to be reinforced because last time in 2017, it was at a different location, but now it's at the Harrington Sound Primary School. And the final comment at this stage is that for number 7, we have set up an election hotline. The election hotline number is 538-8683. And you can feel free to call us on that number if you have any transportation needs to get to the polling booth on Thursday, or if you require any general information. And so for us, it's going to be important that you, as best you can, call us ahead of time because we want to ensure that we can move everyone to the polls in a very timely manner. So for the platform, there's been lots of conversations and comments about the platforms, and the Premier clarified, I think it was maybe 2 days ago now, that the PLP actually are the only party or entity in this election that has a full-scale comprehensive platform that you can refer to. And others may ask, well, what is a platform and why is it important? And the platform is important because it establishes for the voters or the electorate what is it that the party is actually promising to do or intending to get done during the next term of office. And the beauty is it is in writing, it is documented, and you can hold the party accountable for what they promised versus what they did. And at the PLP rally last night, Premier David Burt announced that it's not just a document per se, it really is an accountability mechanism. And to date, from 2017, the PLP has actually accomplished 80% of the promises made in the 2017 platform. And so again, it allows the electorate to say, you say you're going to do X, Y, Z, and then check to see that it's been done. As a historical note, the PLP actually has always issued an election platform because we are very organized, we are very structured, and that is what we do. We issue a platform. And if you are familiar with one of the recent polls, it showed that the PLP is recognized for actually achieving its promises. And so, again, to Premier Burt and the platform team, we say congratulations and thank you, because it gives the electorate now a chance to really go through and figure out, what is it the PLP is all about going forward. As I said already, the platform is located at www.plp.pm to allow you to pull it off and read. And I also say that this afternoon was an interesting time because I was able to sit down for quite a long time, to be honest, with some of our voters. And they are reading through the platform, which is a good thing because then they're asking questions that we can then answer. And as we come to to your doorstep, we're able to have additional information. So what's in the PLP platform? It starts out talking about we're going to power our economic and tourism recovery, and has a long list of creating a nation of earners, economic development and diversification, boosting entrepreneurship, immigration policies, managing government finances, tourism, developing equitable education for all Bermuda's children, improving the quality of life for all Bermudians. Is a long list. Tax and fee reform, reducing the cost of living. That's obviously on everybody's mind because Bermuda is not a cheap place to live. It can be quite expensive, and that is one of the things that the PLP is going to be focusing on, is a continued reduction in the cost of living in Bermuda, affordable housing, support services for youth transitioning out of care, strengthening financial support for families, addressing homelessness, consumer protection, another big one that the voters are asking about, women, children, and families, healthcare, seniors and the differently abled, investing in our workforce and our youth, criminal justice system reform for a safer community, developing our communities, enhancing our culture and celebrating sport, enhancing the community of St. George's. I'm sure Minister Renee and Kim Swan are quite happy about that. There's lots to do in St. George's. And then there's energy, environment, and planning, and modernizing transportation. What I want to do is clearly invite anyone to ask questions. And as they ask the questions, of course, we'll do our best to elaborate. And you can send in your questions via the various chats, and they'll then be referred to me. The emphasis, as you all know, is on continuing to provide the strong leadership for us. That's the PLP logo going forward for this election. And it does build on what is recognized as the PLP having a very strong leadership team. And the most recent evidence of the strength of the PLP team was how we were able to manage the pandemic. We all recognize that Bermuda has been internationally regarded for how we handled the COVID crisis, to the extent that now we have many people that are choosing to come to Bermuda because the health environment, i.e. we are effectively or essentially COVID-free, allows them to come to the island and be safe. Minister Jason Hayward announced in the not too distant past that we have also put in place now a new category whereby persons can come to Bermuda and work remotely from Bermuda, but not be employed in Bermuda. What we mean by that is you can live anywhere you want in the world, but come to Bermuda, and as long as you can demonstrate that you are able to live and not be dependent on Bermuda, then you can be granted a permit to be here for up to a year. And there has been significant response to that. And that shows that there is a significant value in being able to demonstrate that the Bermuda environment is healthy or safe rather from a health perspective, because many persons are now wanting to come to the island. And I do know from my professional experience, my personal experience, I guess, or my private experience, that it is working because many visitors are coming to the island for let's say, a 1 week vacation. And then, based upon their experience and understanding how safe we are, they are intending to stay longer. And so many have come and then extended their vacation. And some have come and because they can work remotely, have initially applied or extended their vacation to be here for up to, say, 3 months so that they can enjoy what is our safety.
Anthony, we have a question. Based on the platform, what are your initial takes from the platform?
Based on the platform, what are the initial takes? Well, as I said, the reality is it is a very comprehensive document. And if you've had a chance to read it, I think it's like 30 or 40 pages. Let me see. Yeah, it's actually up to 37 pages. And of course, the number of pages don't necessarily indicate anything, but it does show that there has been a significant amount of research, amount of collaboration, and a lot of input to get to this stage. And so my take on it is that it's a very good document to allow us to move forward. And earlier, maybe a few weeks ago now, persons were asking the premier why did he call an election early, and that was the reason. He said that he wanted to ensure that there was a mandate to move forward, and because the election will now be held and completed on October 1st, he, on behalf of the PLP, will be able to action the plan and not have to worry about significant or successive resignations, which would have caused us to have all these by-elections and cause some distraction. So that is my answer to the person who has asked that question. It's a comprehensive document, and I would obviously encourage everyone to have a read. It's a long document. Have a read because these are the promises that the PLP are asking the electorate to vote on and return them to the government.
Can you give us your top 3 issues you want to highlight tonight?
The top 3. Well, there are several that I would want to highlight, but primarily they're going to end up being economic. Persons have asked already about the housing plan, how government actually work on that, and then there is the question about the bank, how's that going to work? So I think those are the things I'll talk about. But more so, what I would like to do is encourage persons to send in questions so we can elaborate, because I think that's obviously going to be much more important. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to the banking issue. The government has been but the government has been developing the fintech industry in Bermuda. It is obviously a fledgling industry at this stage. And one of the hindrances, if you will, has been that the normal banks had difficulty in accepting the finances that arise from fintech because they were concerned that there may be a challenge to their rating, if you will, or their risk rating as a result of receiving those funds. And the reason, to be honest, is that it is more difficult to track the origins and otherwise of the funds that might arise, for example, from the gaming industry, because so much of the funds are a cash basis. But what the premier has announced is that the government will be pursuing a digital bank. And the success of the bank means that the bank will then accept these funds. And given that Bermuda has a very good reputation from a regulatory perspective, the bank would have a good chance of success. And given its success, it means that not only the industries in Bermuda or the enterprise in Bermuda that will require the services, others that are international, i.e. offshore or not even in Bermuda, can also utilize their services. And so the expectation would be that the bank would become quite successful. And as we know, to the extent that the bank becomes successful, then it'll create additional jobs. And that goes back to what others have been asking about is how do we really adjust the economy? How do we get things going again? And how do we essentially deal with the debt? Dealing with the debt is going to be based upon having more activity on the island. And so it's to regenerate the economy, as it were. And so to the extent that we're able to have a successful bank, which would then improve the opportunity or increase the opportunity for jobs in the fintech industry and other related industries, then there'll be more jobs. More jobs mean more people. More people mean they're going to have to rent. They go out to dinner. They buy groceries. They ride. They use vehicles. It's going to require gas. They require services, and so that's how you start to regenerate the economy. And as the premier has said many times, and we've all emphasized it, is that if you look at the PLP team, person for person, you'll see that it is a very, very strong team and able to action this for sure. Another issue not issue, but area to address or that the premier has addressed is housing. We know that housing in Bermuda is quite expensive. And again, as part of my canvassing, that has come up as an issue because we have several persons now who might have bought a house, for example, in the past 15 years or so. And at that point in time, the housing prices were quite high. And you have, I wouldn't say many, but yeah, several persons now who have mortgages that are higher than the value of their houses, what's sometimes referred to as being underwater. And so now we have to find different ways to hopefully be able to reduce interest rates because that is a huge component of owning a house, especially if you have a mortgage. And so what the government is looking to do is to assist in, mostly though with new ownership, is to assist, number one, by potentially building some houses. And then rather than requiring the typical or traditional 10, 15, sometimes 20% down payment, the government's going to require a 5% down payment. So that means that persons will be able to buy a house sooner. And so you can imagine if you're trying to save money to buy a house and you have to save, say, 10% versus 5%, you can save 5% sooner, which means you'll be in a better position or an earlier position to be able to buy your house. And I think it's generally understood or recognized that buying a house is more than actually getting the house or the accommodation because it drives you to be even more determined and more responsible, I would say, financially, because you know that you have to earn sufficient funds to cover your mortgage. And so that ends up being a additional driver, even for economic activity, because you know what you need to do. And to the extent that you need to work harder, for example, you either do that, you'll be more focused on your job, and you also sometimes, if necessary, go and try to get a second job to cover, to assist. And so that will definitely have a positive impact on the economy also. The other aspect is to really improve competition. The availability of competition, which would mean really more banks actually, will give consumers a greater opportunity to choose where to get the mortgage from. And if that can be accomplished and we introduce real competition, it means that, again, the banks themselves or the lending institutions themselves would, I believe, strive to minimize or reduce the interest rates in terms of forcing competition. So that would be, I think, a huge way to start to have us have less interest rates. And then, of course, to the extent that we have lesser interest rates, it means that our monthly payments are less. And then we can do one of two things. Either we can save the money to ensure that we have, sufficient in the event that things don't work out the way we expect going forward, or we can actually spend those extra funds. And if we spend the extra funds, what will happen is that you then create even more economic activity. Because let's say, for example, if you're paying a mortgage now that might be, say, $3,000 a month, if we're able to somehow get the interest rates reduced and your mortgage payment goes from maybe, say, $3,000 down to $2,800 or even less than that, those extra funds you can then use for other things, and sometimes they'll be used for things that you want or that you need, and in doing so, you start to then assist the economy. So just imagine if you have, I don't know, 1,000 or 2,000 people that have a $200 reduction in their mortgage, that amount of money is then available to be used by them to do other things. And again, that's how you start to generate the economy. And so just to read some of the aspects from directly from the platform, which is some comments from Premier Brett, I'll repeat them, which is actually at this stage on page 5. He states, our goal is to focus on the investment and policies needed to spur economic growth, essential in getting Bermudians back to work, restoring hope, sparking entrepreneurship and innovation, and building a more prosperous Bermuda that provides opportunity to all Bermudians while creating wealth for future generations. And I'll highlight there the idea of sparking entrepreneurship. Clearly, we are in the election season and we do lots and lots of canvassing, which means door-to-door conversations. And just yesterday, which would have been Saturday in number 7 Hamilton South, I was canvassing with the ever-present Roddy Birchall, and we spoke to one of our voters, and her comment was that she is looking for a job and had not been able to find one for a while. And so we had a conversation for a bit to try to understand her expertise and what you ultimately want to do and those things. And in conversation, we actually ended up with, guess what? Not necessarily you want a job, but you can then transition your skill set into a business. And so we left the conversation there with the fact that she has, well, I wouldn't say what she had, but I mean, she has a significant amount of experience and had gotten to a point of being a manager in her field. And we talked about the idea that if she was able to add a compliance aspect to her existing skill set, she can then offer those services online. And beyond offering those services online in Bermuda, she could then become international, because a lot of things that take place are in Bermuda and elsewhere. And so you're able to, online, of course, transition from just being in Bermuda to having a extended service. And what I'll also do, I won't name her either, but I'll give a plug to one young lady who actually is Bermudian but living on Island and is fluent in Spanish. And what she was able to do, being prompted by her mother, is to go online and offer the services. And in doing so, based upon, she linked it to Bermuda first of all, because that was where she was able to make some direct contacts. And in doing so, was able to go online and now start tutoring in Spanish and looking to expand that, not just in Bermuda, but throughout the world, because clearly, based upon the access to the internet, you can be anywhere and then generate your business. And so that has happened. Another young lady, I won't name her either, but another young lady actually has a online service whereby she has been employed by somebody overseas. And what does she do? She goes online to act as a mentor for other young people that are trying to look for jobs, provide resumes, build their resumes, and the like. And so those are just 2 small examples, or 3 actually, whereby we have to look towards expanding what we can do, and then where possible, utilizing the internet to assist us. And also, which is in the platform, it's the Bermuda Small Business Development Corporation has been strengthened significantly in terms of providing additional information and advice to persons that want to start a business. And so I certainly want to encourage everyone, those who have ideas, and it doesn't matter the degree to which the ideas have been developed at this stage, because you can go there and the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation can provide significant assistance to you in whatever your idea is. And I know from my own experience that it's important to have someone critique your business idea, and it's definitely not done to the extent whereby they're trying to discourage you, but trying to refine or fine-tune your business idea to ensure that you are better prepared to weather any unforeseen circumstances. Because as we know, many businesses start, some are not able to continue as we intended, and the person that's able to adjust or pivot to circumstances is the one that ends up being successful. So again, I want to definitely encourage everyone in that regard. And then Prima Breck goes on to say that our key recovery commitments are as follows: create the Bermuda National Digital Bank, as I referred to earlier, with ownership shares available to all Bermudians to invest and create wealth for future generations. The bank will allow for long-stalled industries like gaming to commence, creating jobs and economic growth while connecting Bermuda's residents and entrepreneurs to the global world of digital payments. This bank will ensure that Bermudians can benefit from low mortgage rates to reduce pressure on middle class families, while lower rates will increase the value of existing homes. And so, again, that goes back to what I said earlier in that the digital bank would be a significant advancement for Bermuda, not only for those operating in Bermuda, but others, because they can then bank the proceeds of their various activities. And he also mentions, which I said earlier, is the idea of lower mortgage rates to reduce pressure on middle class families, and that lower rates will increase the value of existing homes. And the reason why lower rates increase the value of homes is because, to the extent that the rates are lower, it means there are more people that'll be vying to, for example, buy a house. And clearly, to the extent that there's a greater demand for a single house, that's when you can get either the full value for the house or maybe an increased value if there are, more than, I guess, many more people bidding on the house. And so there's a huge advantage to this as being one of the major commitments for the government. The second one that's here is to reform banking laws to increase banking competition in Bermuda by introducing new classes of banks to Bermuda while reducing the required startup capital for new banks. This again is critical because I mentioned the idea of increased competition around mortgage rates, but you can imagine what would happen if there are more banks and more competition around all services, whether it be credit cards that's being offered, whether it be the cost of online banking, whether it be the cost of payments, because clearly, to the extent that there are more banks, then they want to make sure that they succeed, and that's when competition kicks in, and obviously the consumer wins because, generally speaking, costs would be driven down with additional opportunities and services, and so we can all benefit from that. So I do look forward to a more banks, or at least one new bank, because we all know that there has not really been a new bank in Bermuda for quite a while. There have been some changes in ownership, but not new banks, and so we look forward to that becoming a fruition. And then is to transform the city of Hamilton into a livable city by fostering the development of apartment buildings in Hamilton that will enable young Bermudians to join the property ladder. First-time homeowners will receive support from the government to allow them to purchase these apartments with a 5% down payment. This, in my mind, is unique, it's innovative, and it's a welcome opportunity because those who have been overseas will recognize that once you go overseas and you have to live on your own through university primarily, when you come back home, you're used to that sense of independence. And we know that to the extent that a newly graduated university student or newly graduated person would welcome the opportunity to come back home and to live on their own because that's what they're used to. And to the extent that the government can create an environment whereby these new accommodations are affordable to these new graduates and also persons, of course, who are already in Bermuda, then there'll be great success. And you'll be surprised. We'll all be surprised, I believe, because number one, it creates the additional activity in the North Hamilton area with the houses, I believe, will be intended to be built. But also, once you have more people in the city of Hamilton, you have more activity. Number one, people stay out later. They want to, go to restaurants and do other things. And so again, you get to a point whereby you start to regenerate the economy to some degree, and then we go from there. I see a physical hand up, which means there must be another question coming.
Yes, while the party is talking about, the question is, while the party is talking about building new properties, what about the existing ones that are just sitting on the market?
Yeah, again, I keep doing this because I want to show persons how the platform and the voters all tie together. The question about empty apartments has come up again, actually, in this case, on Saturday when we were canvassing, because someone in the Hamilton South area was warned about or commenting about how they want the government to improve transportation in the area because they are not able to get tenants that they otherwise would if there was more regular transportation beyond, say, 6 p.m. The question about the existing apartments that are vacant, I believe speaks to supply and demand. The challenge is there are apartments available and there are people that need to rent those apartments. We need to work to ensure that the price that's currently being asked for these apartments meets the need or the rate that persons that are looking for those apartments are prepared to pay. And so that's what has to happen. And I know there are some concerns now in terms of, well, I have to get X amount of money from my apartment for rent because that's how I manage my mortgage or my other expenses. The unfortunate reality, though, is that based upon market forces, if anybody does have an empty apartment and they want to rent it, they're going to need to make the adjustment to the extent that there's a person available to rent the apartment that's willing to pay that price. And that will be the answer. And to the extent that the government does provide housing for, I want to say, younger persons to purchase at a lower rate, that's going to mean that, again, we have to be more practical and sometimes even innovative in terms of how do I encourage someone to rent my apartment versus your apartment? I think that's going to be the answer. It's going to really be having a more sensitivity to around what the market is actually requesting, ensuring that our apartments are, are reasonable in terms of the appearance when persons come to rent them. But ultimately, it's going to be a matter of what do I do, whether it be actual rent amount or any other amenities I can add in to ensure that my apartment gets rented. That is going to have to be the answer. And also, what we have to understand is that even if the government agreed to build apartments today, they're not going to be online for probably 12 or 18 months. And so you or anybody that has an apartment empty now has at least a 12 to 18-month lead time to get their apartment rented.
Thank you.
Okay. Again, I'm very thankful that there are questions coming in because as we prepare for these presentations, I always ask that we need to encourage persons to come in because ultimately, yes, we're providing information in terms of what we want to share, but to the extent that questions are asked, we're able to provide even more relevant information because we know that we are then providing answers to specific questions from the electorate. The next point is to start a green energy revolution led by government that will increase the use of renewable energy in homes and businesses throughout the island to reduce electricity bills. We all know that electricity is, relatively speaking, fairly expensive in Bermuda. And anything that we can do to reduce our consumption will be of benefit to ourselves. One of those easy things to do is to either have a timer or physically unplug your water heater. Most of us, of course, would use the water heater probably in the morning time and at the evening. So, get showers and those sorts of things and, personal hygiene. But the daytime, the water heater cycles on and off to keep the water hot, even though it's not being used. And so that's something that we have to think about doing. But in terms of starting a green energy revolution, it is even more significant because the government initiative will help us all to reduce energy consumption and have an eventual impact on climate change. Climate change, of course, we know is that the Earth's atmosphere is warming up and causing other issues in terms of tides and just a myriad of issues. And so that is something the government's going to be doing going forward as part of the platform. The next one that's listed here is to increase investment in the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, which I alluded to earlier, with the goal of starting dozens of new Bermudian-owned businesses every year. This will mean assisting entrepreneurs with startup grants, financing assistance, and business coaching while supporting these new businesses with the power of public procurement. We will introduce technology to allow entrepreneurs to quickly incorporate businesses online and eliminate even more red tape and regulations that we have since first elected. I want to just emphasize one aspect here, and that is that the government will assist entrepreneurs with startup grants. That means subject to the business being approved, right? You may get a grant for that. Finance assistance and business coaching. I referred to that earlier also because I believe it's important that if you have a business idea, that you go through a process of refinement to ensure that the business idea has a greater chance of success. A lot of times, new entrepreneurs accept those comments as being critical or trying to discourage you, but that's not what it is. It is trying to ensure that the business model is as robust as it can be and also prepares the potential entrepreneur for any potential pitfalls. And so it is a strengthening process, and it's for the person to understand the nature of that because that is actually how it benefits everyone. But what I really want to emphasize, to be honest, is that the government is now saying that it'll support these new businesses with the power of public procurement. Now, we all know that the government budget, let's say maybe in a given year, is about $1 billion, right? A large portion of that is actually salaries and grants. But another portion of that is actually what the government must spend in order to operate. And there are simple things in terms of, I use the example a lot of times about the government must buy hand towel and toilet paper and those sorts of things and whatever. And in doing so, the government has to spend money. And so this idea of supporting new businesses with the power of public procurement means that the government can use some of its normal funding that has to spend to support businesses. And so this is really significant. It's a significant idea that means that going forward, the government can redirect some of the funds that it spends without actually increasing what it spends and thereby support new businesses. So that is something I look forward to. And certainly as an entrepreneur myself, I encourage persons to have ideas, no matter what the idea may be, as best you can, just write down what your thoughts or your ideas are, and then go to the small business corporation because the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation, because they have a tremendous skill set, tremendous resources to actually assist you in what you're trying to achieve.
Anthony, just one comment. Folks are definitely enjoying the discussion.
Thank you.
Competition for interest rates would definitely be welcome, and that's from Jamal Allboy.
Well, thanks again, Jamal. I am obviously encouraged. You are one of our voters, and you are an active voter in the community. And I like what you do, and certainly you hold us accountable and ask us questions. And you are one of the active persons. And so, yes, the idea of competitive interest rates is actually quite significant because what I often hear, or what we often hear about, I guess, is that if you're overseas now, the interest rates might be as low as, say, 3 or 4%. But in Bermuda, they sometimes reach to 7 and 8%. And so that's a huge difference. And the idea would be to do what's necessary to get the Bermuda interest rates to be a lot lower. And there have been some comparisons that one of the local institutions actually has mortgage rates in Bermuda that are much higher than some of the competing jurisdictions. And so there are definite processes that can be followed to get the Bermuda rates a little bit lower. So that's going to be very, very important. And so in summary, and I am just simply reading at this stage directly from the PLP platform, is that in summary from the Premier, that ours is a progressive vision for Bermuda, and we have a heart for the people. We humbly ask for your vote on October 1st to keep the strong leadership that works for all Bermudians. And that, of course, is just a reiteration of the fact that October 1 now is coming soon. And as we reinforce that, many people are saying, what, so soon? Yes. So the election is going to be on Thursday. Thursday morning, we want everyone to obviously get up as best you can, come and vote before you go to work. By law, your employer is required to give you time off to go and vote. Don't abuse it, but take the time. Come to, in this instance, down to Harrington Sound. I said again, at from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be there. The PLP team will be there to greet you. And if you need to have transportation or any other considerations or concerns, please call us on 538-8683, and we'll be more than happy to come around and pick you up and take you to the polls and then bring you back to your residence or wherever you have to go within reason. And we are happy to also report that as we have been canvassing, persons are asking for the service. And so we know that from the get-go, we have people that we take to the polls first thing in the morning, and then the minibus will be available to assist others. Yes, ma'am. Angela has another question.
Another comment, actually.
Sure.
This is from Connect Burgess.
Mhm.
BEDC are amazing. They turn lemons into lemonade. Love our PLP business. Minded team. That's how you grow Bermuda for Bermudians. That's Connect Burgess.
Thank you, Ms. Connect. And, we sometimes forget that there are many small businesses that drive the economy even in Bermuda. In the US and otherwise, they have different statistics in terms of the amount of contribution made to the economy by small businesses. In Bermuda, we tend to focus on, it's government, it's the banks, international business, and the rest of those. And yes, those are important, but we'll be collectively surprised, I believe, of the number of small businesses that may employ, say, less than 5 people that have a significant impact on the Bermudan economy, which means that everyone that they employ has a job. They can then, from that job, pay their rent, buy groceries, go out and do different things. And so, yeah, I definitely endorse the idea that the Bermuda Economic Development Corporation is tremendous. It is phenomenal. I previously sat on the board, and so I understood how they go through and assess various applications for businesses. And the beauty of it also is that the team, on the board, right? They have various backgrounds, and so they are able to provide different input from different perspectives. And it's really important to understand that once they review what I was put before them, they're able to significantly enhance what is being offered. And you do get a good interchange, because I might say, well, it may not be a good idea, but others will certainly chime in, if you will, that yes, it is a good idea, but this is how it can be tweaked and therefore get approval. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And as I said earlier, speaking to one of our voters, her comment was, "Well, I want to get a job," but after speaking for not many minutes, it was, "Well, guess what? Yeah, I'm going to go online. I'm going to do my a course in compliance, and then look to go out into the community and offer a service rather than looking for employment." So that is huge. That is huge. If I may rather, I'm just going to go through a couple of other quick points, which is that the government is going to stimulate the economy by using some of the proceeds of the recent debt raised to move capital projects forward. We look around, there are some things that the government's going to be doing that the government wants to do. And to the extent that it encourages or requires them to, for example, build, that means jobs are going to be created in the near term. And so we look forward to what will be announced. And I say to everyone now, listen, to the extent that you have a skill set, start to sit down and think about what can you do, what do you want to do, and then what are some of the other things that fit around that. And when the government starts to announce that there are certain activities taking place, whether it be the government fully or in the private sector, that you apply yourselves. I mean, one thing that's coming in, what's on my mind right now is that the hotel in St. George, the new St. Regis, should be coming online soon, and they're going to need employees. And so my question to everyone, or my challenge to everyone, would be, what types of jobs do you think are going to be required by the hotel? We know they're going to be there. There are some going to require, say, dining room staff, so going to be bus boys and waiters and dining room captains and the like. They're going to need maintenance people. They're going to need probably drivers for their guests. They're going to need tour guides. They're going to need reception persons. They're going to need hospitality and house cleaners. There's going to be quite a bit of employees required, and it's up to us, I believe, to prepare ourselves for that. So don't wait until the hotel opens up, because that's going to be too late. But start thinking now. And you can contact them and see what their response is in terms of what they're preparing to do, what they're going to be doing to prepare employees to work in the hotel. What we would not want to do is have the hotel open up and then say, no, we need employees, and guess what? There are no Bermudians available. That would not make a whole lot of sense. And so we need to make sure that we prepare ourselves now for those jobs that are coming down the line.
Anthony, what recommendations would you give to someone in terms of preparing themselves? Do you have particular steps, and how do they go about preparing themselves for that?
For which, for the job or for
For
new
job
business?
opportunities in the upcoming hotel in the Regis.
Sure. The first thing I would do is write down what my current skill set is, and the close next step, would be, St. Regis is an international brand. Go online, just Google St. Regis, for example, and see what comes up, and start to get a sense as to what are they looking for in an employee? Because like they may require a certain level of service, or they may focus, for example, in the one branded hotel focuses quite a bit on knowing the guests' names. And so when the guests come in, they want you to say, well, good afternoon, Mr. and Mrs., as opposed to just, may I help you? And so that is a very, very small example, though, of how people can start to think, okay, fine, this hotel brand wants me to always use person's names. And so then what you can do to build yourself up, to be honest, is when you speak to people generally, start calling them by their name. Start trying to remember. That's one small way to do it. The other way, of course, would be to go there and ask. Find out what is the current status of the St. Regis HR function. Who is the person? Who is the contact person? And then start that process, because that person would know, number one, when they're going to need employees, and number two, they would know what variety of employees are going to be required. You can also look to government if you need to, probably through maybe workforce development. Just contact them and ask them, do they know what jobs are being made available? And simply be in the environment. Just go down there and sometimes just ask whoever you see. Go for a ride or drive down there and just ask who you see about a job, because sometimes it's that personal connection that also gets you to be considered for a job. And then, generally speaking, it'll be really prepare yourself. What I mean by that is make sure that you are prepared to work hard when you get that job. Don't wait until you get the job. Start now. Are you a person that is committed? Are you a person that's able to make time? Are you a person that's prepared that, you know what, I'm going to do what's necessary to be successful in the job? Am I pleasant? Do I have to do anything else in terms of even my skill sets? And work on those things now so that, again, you are ready if and when you are called to be an employee, even just to be interviewed. I said earlier that there's a young person that has an online service, if you will, about interviewing. So maybe do some things like that in terms of do some mock interviews, because that'll definitely be a huge advantage. Yeah. And so, you have another question?
No, that's
Okay,
it.
gotcha.
Thank you.
And what's interesting to me also in terms of the preparation is that there is the conversation in terms of redeveloping the Fairmont Southampton Hotel, the relocation of the Bermuda's container port from Hamilton, and a new state-of-the-art medical tourism facility in Bermuda. And these all are going to require physical structures. And so I'm saying again, to the extent that you have a skill set, whether it be in the construction industry, no matter what it may be, make sure you can fine tune it and make sure you're available when these job opportunities arise. So I think that's again that's huge. Yes, another question? Sure. Okay. We've been going for a while and really, again, trying to respond to any questions that may arise. But generally speaking, I think it's the idea that the Progressive Labor Party does have a platform. As I said already, you can go to www.plp.pm to have a look at it. And I know it's working because others have already talked about it, and they are reading it and asking me questions. I know one person in particular said that she has read portions of it and she will come back to me with additional questions. And so that's what we'll do. We'll provide more information as necessary going forward. But the key theme for today, I guess, is to remind everybody again that the election, of course, is going to be held at the Harrington Sound Primary School on Thursday, October 1st. We'll be there. The polls will be open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you need any assistance, please call us on 538-8683 for transportation or general information. And I'll also announce tonight that in the COVID-19 environment, there are the health concerns, and what we have done, meaning myself and branch number 7 for Hamilton South, we have actually purchased enough disposable masks for every single voter in number 7. And so clearly not everyone's going to need them, but we do have these masks and they're available for everyone that's coming to vote. And so if you have any concern whatsoever, come on down. You're required actually to come to vote with a mask. If for some reason you don't, you can either call us ahead of time. Again, that's 538-8683. And you can come to our office where I am now and collect the mask, or certainly we can give you one on the day. But we have done that. Again, that's part of our investing in the community. We want to make sure everyone is safe. And so we can do that. just give us a call. And I've said this many times also, and I'll say one more time today. Please make sure you come out and vote. It is very important. It is a tremendous opportunity and responsibility. In Bermuda, we're not always able to vote, or at least not everyone was able to vote, and so that's very important. And for me in particular, it is to come and vote for Anthony Richardson. In 2017, the vote difference was 21, as everyone's probably tired of me saying now, but it was 21, and that's a very small margin given what happened in the past. And 12 persons changed the vote would have made a difference. And so I reiterate that every vote counts. So please come out on Thursday. Again, we'll be there. And in the meantime, by the way, if you feel that you have something to say to us and might not have made it to your doorstep, then give us a call. And we do make appointments, or we come by appointment in the daytime to see persons, because sometimes they want to speak for a little bit longer than the normal few minutes. And so that has worked very well. I spoke to my campaign manager earlier because we had an appointment at 3 o'clock really, and it was an extensive appointment, but it was good because it provided good information, good feedback to us. And I still hope that to the Mossens, I'll say that you do come out, and although you were not prepared to disclose, and the Douglases, you were not prepared to disclose who you're going to vote for, that you come out and, as we say, put an X next to Anthony Richardson, so that come October 1st, later on in the evening, that Anthony Richardson is able to become a member of parliament for the first time, a direct person to be in the House of Assembly, speaking on behalf of the people in number 7 as a member of parliament. So thank you. We'll send out some more information via email most likely. But again, we thank you and look forward to seeing you on Thursday, October 1st at Harrington Sound School between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Hopefully you'll come out earlier. Don't wait till the last minute. Come out early so that everyone that comes to vote is able to do so in a timely manner. Thank you again. We do appreciate you.